of you already noticed over the last weeks that we have renamed the session a little bit. Originally, it had been called Advanced Event Mesh Kafka Deep Dive or something like that. But based also on your feedback, we decided to make, first of all, an overall introduction to get started. We have not excluded Kafka from today, but just spent some minutes, let's say, with the Kafka topic. If needed, we can think about another deep dive, but today is like introduction, getting started. What is the idea for today? And you see it a little bit from the time slots perspective. I will set the scene, some introductions, some use cases. Handing over to Alex, he will talk about the event-driven context in the SAP world, the technologies like the advanced event mesh, the backend enablement technologies, as well as how you can get started. Before handing over back to me with some Kafka insights, and you see the most time we would like to spend today maybe in what we as a consulting site are doing, roadmap insights, which is not part of the agenda here, but I can tell you roadmap, as well as an open QA. We have also some experts behind the scenes. Feel free to use the chat. We pick them up. With that, my name is Florian. I guess it's almost my 13th round in this expert session. I have not done every session, but some. Technology consultant in the area of integration. So usually I build interfaces, I draw architectures, everything in the space of integration. Event-driven is also kind of new for me. I guess I started my event-driven journey 1.5, 2 years ago. Alex, would you like to say some words about yourself?
Yes, sure. I'm Alex. I'm at SAP since 2018, so 7 years now, and I'm also in the same department, a technology consultant in the field of integration, worked with PIPO, Integration Suite, and Advanced Event Mesh, and AIF was also a topic which is also related, which we will see later on in my slides.
Goodie. Then let's go. Motivation. Now, why you should have event-driven architecture on your radar. And I guess one of the easiest examples is the kind of new project, greenfield approach, an S/4HANA project is coming, be it in the RISE context or without RISE context. People will ask you about the latest and greatest technologies from SAP. And for sure, we still have, let's say, API technologies like SOAP or the data for ETL loads. We have CDS views, everything is in there. But for sure, you might notice a kind of still new technology, the event enablement framework with the event-driven architecture, which has been introduced, I guess, with SAP S/4HANA 2022. So whenever you have a new project, for sure, it's worth to check out these technologies. What we for sure see, because we are the integration department, is your ongoing migration projects from the integration layer perspective. So I would bet half of the participants in here are currently in a PIPO move session or migration, And then often it's worth to figure out if your current implementations, which are often ending up in a point-to-point interfaces, are still valid, or if you maybe can improve the situation. So what we often see is that you often, in the master data context, replicate and distribute master data, giving multiple configurations, instead of maybe sending out an information once, in our case, maybe to a broker or to a middleware layer, and then replicating it from there. Could be a typical EDA scenario. Often the driver is not us from the IT side, but business. We see that in the past, interfaces have been implemented, yes, file-based, but also batch-driven or via periodic polling. So every 1 hour, 2 hours or night jobs, and the business is asking for more real-time information. And also here, besides maybe an API approach, SOAP web service, the event approach could be a valid one. And even another use case where I'm currently involved, I've been asked by one customer just simply to redefine the integration pattern. So there's no S/4HANA project ongoing. There's also no PIPO ongoing for this customer. It's about reshaping the integration patterns which they are using. And in this, let's say, scenario, we're just introducing, on a blueprint perspective, EDA as well. without a concrete use case for this customer, but yeah, at least they have it on the radar. Let's compare a little bit the two approaches, the most prominent ones. And you can call it API versus, but you can also call it API architecture and event-driven architecture. Yeah. But the biggest, let's say, differentiations are, I guess on the API side, it's clear. Usually, doesn't matter now if you have SOAP or data APIs in the SAP context, they rely on request response model. So a client is sending out information synchronously, maybe using more data, or asynchronously using SOAP, and they expect a certain feedback back. Yeah? In an asynchronous way, this feedback maybe takes certain seconds or even minutes. In a synchronous way, this call is held until really the final execution of this call has been conducted and hopefully successful. A typical use case, often I would see a front-end application needs certain customer details. You do kind of get call, yeah, maybe even periodically every hour, yeah, or on a click. Yeah, and with this get call on a data service, you fetch the information. Yeah. What we see, this approach is very well understood. Everybody knows a web service environment. Everybody knows the RESTful architecture. Everybody knows how to read WSDLs, EDMX, XSD files. For a developer, it's easy to implement. Yeah? We only have to be aware, especially if you do lots of callbacks or calling a lots of APIs. Yeah? We have to take care that it's scalable enough. Not that every user is allowed to click and to get certain data out of the system. Needs to be considered. Could be avoided, by the way, but needs to be considered. The second approach then, which we would like to focus, is the event-driven approach, which follows a method, let's say an architecture approach, which we call PubSub, publish and subscribe. Yeah? In the end, it's for sure an asynchronous approach. We have somebody which we call the publisher of an event, the event creator, which shoots out this event in terms of fire and forget. And ideally, you have multiple receivers subscribing to this event in an asynchronous manner. Yeah. There is a man in the middle. This man in the middle is the event broker, and Alex will give some details, which is responsible then to keep this event ready for the consumers, for the subscribers. I come to some use cases in a bit. What we see as an advantage is this loose coupling between the services, highly scalable. For the backend, doesn't matter, nobody is calling me back in this way. What we also noticed is a little bit that the knowledge is not spread too much. Also, I mentioned I started maybe 1.5 years ago. The new protocols are maybe not known, AEM, QPM, QTT. Yeah? Maybe the error handling in the event context isn't known. The event ordering might be the unknown. The event operations, how to monitor everything. These might be the unknown concepts, points, why some of our customers are still struggling to join this journey. Let's go one deeper. The event itself, quite straightforward. You see it on the right-hand side in the black box. Is just, let's say, an information about a significant change. Order created, order deleted, order updated. Yeah? And in the end, the event source, in our context quite often, but not only, is an S/4HANA system. The S/4HANA system is informing the event broker and is sending over this event information, which you can see on the right-hand side, and makes this event and this information ready for potential consumers / subscribers. What is in there? You can see the product. So the object itself, in our case, a product. You can see, we call it the verb, so the status changed, and the underlying data. You already see, if you're a little bit familiar with the event space, it's not a full-blown data event, but it's rather a smaller event, which we call notification event. Maybe also this topic handling is new for you. In the past, you had this one-to-one connections, but in the event-driven context, events are published to a certain topic. And there's one example which we all know, is the example from our airport. We as SAP, not only we as SAP, also together with our partner Solis, we recommend a kind of topic structure, which is usually following the structure like a noun, could be an object, a verb, something has happened, something has modified, changed, and then a number of properties. And I guess the best example you might know by your own, being at the airport, the gate is open, the flight is delayed, and you can follow the structure. The noun is the flight, the status, boarding has been started, and then maybe a property could be your gate. This information easily, somebody in the system is opening the gate, and all 200 passengers is getting the information based on this topic. Two use cases I would like to highlight. There are maybe more than 100, but the most common ones, especially in the PIPO migration, we often see that there is a potential for modernization in the area of master data integration. Formally, IDOC has been exchanged, be it on the DebMAS, CREMAS, etc. pp. And often you have built one and the same configuration multiple times. A potential improvement could be either to use a standard event, the business partner. If the information are not sufficient, you can think about a custom event, so to enhance this standard business partner event, or maybe even just use the IDOC as an event itself and replicate the IDOC to the broker, and from there, multiple receivers. From a transactional side, I would say the two main areas where I see event things is in the area of inventory. Whenever goods are moving, goods are going to be reduced, taken out, and in the area of transport management, because here often real-time is a kind of must, and often those interfaces has been implemented not really in a real-time manner, but imagine you have a catalog, somebody's ordering something, you take out inventory, it needs to be more or less reliable, a database that you know this is my stock. The latest implementation I have done was a slot booking for trucks. Whenever a truck was coming to the plant, the truck's driver, and it was a big site, have been informed which, also they call it gate or garage, which garage should be taken for a truck driver. A little bit like at the airport. With that, motivation done, basic set. Alex, would you like to take over for the introduction to the advanced event mesh?
Yes. Let me share my screen. Here we go.
Yep.
All right. Can you see my slide?
We do.
Great. All right, let's have a look at the time. All right, so I'm going to start with the event-driven architecture or ecosystem of SAP. So let's begin at the bottom with advanced event match, which is the heart of our event-driven architecture. Right? It enables customers to have a enterprise-grade EDA platform. Well, on the pictures on the ground, it doesn't mean that it is running on-prem. It can run in the public cloud and the dedicated cloud or on-prem. And we can see third-party applications in the cloud or on-premise. That means it can connect to any kind of applications using many open standards like Florian mentioned, AMQP, MQTT, but also web services like REST. And of course, it can connect to the SAP Cloud Application Event Hub, which enables SAP SaaS applications like SuccessFactors or even custom CAP applications to publish and consume events, and can be connected, as I said, to advanced event mesh. Furthermore, we have, of course, S/4HANA and ECC. They have different event enablement options, which I will talk about in a slide later on. So depending on the release level, there are different options to connect. And of course, we also have the cloud integration, which consists of basically the cloud integration service, which formerly known as CPI, to add some conversion mapping or data enrichment. So Florian mentioned we mostly have notification events. So maybe you want to call 1 or 2 APIs to enrich that data. And of course, we have the event mesh inside of the integration suite here, which is a great starting point to start with small use cases. And at some point, maybe customers might want to introduce advanced event mesh, and there we have the possibility to migrate the configurations and also do a bridging between those brokers. Right. So as I said, advanced event mesh is the event EDA platform for enterprise scale eventing, and has a lot of more deployment models, t-shirt sizes, and features, which I will show in the next slide. So here we can see there are different t-shirt sizes, which I will show in a slide later on. It can run on private and public clouds. Based on these t-shirt sizes, there are different options to have more storage, more queues, and more messages per time frame. And here in this area, we can see all of the functions, features and functions which are included, like a network of event brokers. So in event mesh inside of the integration suite, you have one broker inside of your integration suite tenant, so running in the public cloud. And in advanced event mesh, you can deploy probably as many brokers as you want around the world and connect them. And there you have a lot more monitoring analysis functions. The dynamic event routing is included. So we have seen the example with the flight, right? So you have a specific gate and you can only consume a specific gate number or flight number already in the topic subscription to a queue in the advanced event mesh. You can use filtering, you can replay events, and also there's the event portal where events can be managed. And also related to monitoring, I will also show it in a slide later on, the distributed tracing to track all the events from the publisher to the consumer. Right, so we have, on the one side, we have the event portal, right, where all the events are the whole architecture of applications, which can be consumer or publisher of events, can be designed and managed and also seen in a visual way. Then we have mission control, where all the brokers are managed and configured, and also insights, where the monitoring happens at the end. Here we can see an example from the catalog. So here we have all the events. They are all summarized here, and also the designer, where we can see the applications and the events coming out of the applications and going to some consumers. Here also the async API specifications can be inserted and documented at the end. Right, here an example where a service, a broker is created, and at the end, if you have multiple brokers on different clouds, they can be, or they will be connected, of course, and then we can see on this map where they are distributed. Another feature is what's maybe important is the event data access. Basically, this means that event producers can control who is able to consume the data they are publishing. And they can control it without having to include the middleware colleagues, right? And that's really helpful to control where the data is actually going and who is able to do what. Then we have the monitoring. We can see on the left screen an overview basically of the whole mesh. How many, a few statistics, how many messages went in and went out. In the data doc, we can see more detailed, depending on what trace level is on. We can see more details around the events going in and out, and also in the cluster manager, we can see for one broker, how many messages went in and out, and more details about that. Right, a few words about distributed tracing. So basically, Florian, you mentioned it already. Monitoring in the eventing world might be a bit difficult because you can imagine there can be a lot of events happening in a system, and you have multiple event consumers, event producers. You have probably multiple brokers, and you want to track from end to end where the messages went. And distributed tracing makes that possible by collecting the data from the broker itself. So the broker traces the messages, and also the publisher and the subscriber, they acknowledge that the message has been sent or received. And an OpenTelemetry collector like Datadog collects the data and makes it visual for the user to analyze for every event where if something happened, you can see that, and where it actually went and if it was successful. Right, so that about features of Advanced Event Mesh. But how to get started? We have seen some use cases. So of course, the first step, where I don't have a slide today because it would take too much time to talk about that in detail. But first step would, in our recommendation is to identify use cases, and then go forward to analyze the event enablement. Because usually when we are involved, there's some SAP system, at least one. And one question which is mostly a challenge for customers is how to get these events out of the system, but also from the broker to the system. And depending on the release level, there are different options. So usually we recommend to use the standard content. On the Business Accelerator Hub, we have over 600 events, but this number is quite old. Maybe it's even more now. Usually notification events. That means if you want to enrich the data, there are also different options to enhance these notification events to create data events. I mentioned it already in the Integration Suite. Of course, you can call an OData API from there, but also on the back end, it is possible if it's 2022-23 release of S4HANA to use the RAP approach to create a data event out of the notification event. There are also other options, especially for older backends, S4HANA 2021 and older, or ECC. The Application Interface Framework, AIF, which is also included in the Advanced Event Mesh license, but requires some AIF knowledge, of course, because AIF is not only a framework for eventing, but for all kinds of integrations. So it has a lot of options, and you need to know your way around there. But of course, we offer support in our ramp-up initiative. We have some blogs. Yeah, and that might help you. Another option is the event add-on for ERP, or also known as the Asapia add-on, which is an additional service or application add-on, which can be licensed additionally. A more low-code, no-code solution to where everything is in one menu and really easy to put together. if that's the preferred way. So we have a table here comparing the solutions. I won't go into detail. You can see the slides afterwards, or if you have questions about it, we can talk about it later on. Right. So if event enablement is decided, another question also, I mean, depends also on the event enablement, or event enablement depends on this, basically, is the broker itself. So we have the event mesh in the integration suite for basic and isolated small use cases. So it's a good way to start. But if there are more requirements, more features necessary, and yeah, if the throughput and the storage, number of queues, these kind of stuff, is if there's higher requirements and you want to introduce EDA on a larger scale, advanced event mesh is the better choice, of course. Also, for example, if you want a private deployment, that's only possible with advanced event mesh. Right. So the ways of deploying, shared region or dedicated region is two options, and also the customer controlled region. Of course, in this case, the customer is then responsible to take care of the Kubernetes cluster, and SAP is then responsible for the advanced event mesh platform then. Right, t-shirt sizes, I mentioned it already. Depending on the t-shirt size, there are some parameters. So, for example, storage or number of queues. One thing which is important is that we recommend starting with XS, because upgrading from here is possible. The developer broker is more like a trial account, and if you want to go from XXS to XS, it has to be migrated somehow, so it cannot be easily upgraded. Right, looking at the time. Okay, some minutes. Right, next step. Let's assume the broker is there, at least one event enablement is already decided and maybe already set up. Next step, of course, is to build the first POC, right? First step in the explore phase is to build the architecture, to decide who is involved, who needs which, who is using which technology. Not every system is able to use AMQP or MQTT, so you might need to call a REST API at the end, which is also possible with advanced event mesh, but you need to know it. You need to know what your requirements are, functional or non-functional. Then you start developing, you make your first experience, right? You implement the features you want to try, and at the end, you perform the testing. And yeah, next step, of course, is then to deploy it on the production. And with that comes governance, support models, monitoring, of course, and also, yeah, a learning curve, let's say, an optimization of processes, and everything has to be, of course, embedded in the customer-specific guidelines and processes, right? And that requires a cycle of continual improvement, right? For every new POC or every new additional process or geography will probably go a little bit smoother because some experience is there. Right, talking about productive deployment, I also wanted to mention in the SAP world, we call it transport management. So if you're developing something, right, and you want to push it to test or production, there are different options. I mentioned before, the event portal is where it's possible to configure the broker in the UI, and it can be pushed to different environments. That's possible, and that's a manual process. There are also possibilities to automate it. So like with the SAP APIs, so basically they are REST APIs which can be called with an API client, or also with you can build your software around it. There are some some operations like creation of a queue or monitoring, check if your queue is bound or a broker is active. And also some actions can be done, like deleting messages from a queue. So it's quite powerful. And you have to know your way around, of course, if you use SAP APIs. Another possibility is infrastructure as a code. So one example is Terraform. So here we have scripts which can be defined before. They are like shareable configuration files, which are better scalable, repeatable. They enable versioning, and yeah. But of course, you need to know knowledge of Terraform and also some time and effort to set it up at the beginning. So there are advantages and disadvantages depending on the approach, which I summarized in this table. You can have a look on that, and for each approach, of course, we can also offer expert sessions at a later point of time, if that's interesting for you. Right, then coming back to Florian with Kafka.
Goody, from the timing, not bad, Alex. So I'm not calling it now Kafka deep dive, but some Kafka insights. Yeah, because often either we come with an advanced event mesh and Kafka is already there, or I even have seen another way, advanced event mesh Solace has been introduced years ago, and the customer is currently reviewing also Kafka. We have to understand that both have a certain history and coming a little bit from a different direction. Yeah. On the Kafka side, we call it DNA, great for analytics and stream processing. Yeah, it's based on event sourcing, yeah, which is a pattern which allows, let's say, to collect applications, a sequence of events. Means often, yeah, for example, an order has been created, the corresponding payment has been processed, the item for this order has been shipped. Yeah, and you are rather interested maybe in streamlining, yeah, those logs, those state changes in an analytical context. Yeah? And to be honest, often I guess streaming and eventing is a little bit mixed up. I would say, at least in my workshops and also in the workshops with advanced event mesh, we rarely use the terminology streaming. Stream is something attached, I would say, also to Kafka. Yeah? Is it wrong in the event context? No, sometimes event streaming is also used, but in the end, we are not doing streaming. We do kind of distribution of events. There you can see a little bit the, let's say, technology, a little differentiation in the technology. As the background for Kafka was based on analytics, yeah, we often see also by far bigger exchange of data. So here it's called petabytes, it could be gigabytes and terabytes, yeah. And then advanced event mesh as a transactional event-driven landscape, yeah, we rather see something like kilobyte, megabytes, because often it's kind of real-time driven, exchange immediately when something has been stated, a state change has been performed, compared maybe to something we collect a series of changes, a frequency of changes, yeah, and then sending it over. So in the Kafka context, we see often something like micro batching, yeah, not fully real-time. You can establish real-time for sure, but often we see micro batching versus advanced event mesh, state change happen, out. Yeah. On top, I would say advanced event mesh, due to this nature, transactional based, real-time based, we need some more toolings and features on top. Yeah, something like dynamic routing or filtering. Yeah, send out only events for a certain region, for a certain plant. Or when you create a topic, or ensure that this topic includes also a certain order number or order ID, that the follow-up process can, let's say, follow as designed, so to say. Yeah? Also, when you're opening, to be honest, a Confluent Kafka site, it's straightforward, I would say, easy to explain, compared to Advanced Event Mesh, where you have, let's say, enhanced features, something like the catalog on top, like the approval for the catalog. You can design your landscape in Advanced Event Mesh on the catalog side. So some features, I would say, which we need in the transaction space are simply on top, which you do not have or need maybe on Kafka. Yeah. The overlap is clear. Both use PubSub. Both have a replay feature. To be honest, based on the nature, I would say the replay feature using Kafka with the cold storage is much more powerful from the advanced event mesh. Yeah, but our intention is not always to replay, to be honest. And for both, you can build up meshes. Yeah? Throughput also for both is high. How you can connect both worlds. And you can see also some links at the bottom. We have built, written down several blocks. Let me check my laser pointer. So the most native way to connect maybe Confluent Kafka with advanced event mesh, you see a little bit on the top and also in this block, is using the native Kafka bridge as part of advanced event mesh. Means you simply have to come with host name, username, password, yeah, maybe certificates in case you would like to establish SSL, yeah. And then you build up the technical connection in this bridge. You can do it in both directions, advanced event mesh being, let's say, the sender or the receiver of the information. And then you simply do the configuration, yeah, to which topics you would like to listen or which information you would like to share in the direction of Kafka. Straightforward. And then it's up to you. If you're happy with this information, for sure, you can do AMQP inbound to S/4HANA directly. You do not have to involve Integration Suite if there's no need. You can consume inbound events, yeah. But for sure, you can also make usage of the Integration Suite. Be it you read the information from Advanced Event Mesh to massage the data, to normalize the data, and then sending it back to the S/4HANA system, or data, so whatever you need, yeah. Or you also can ignore the advanced event mesh at all, ignore what we just told you the last 40 minutes, yeah. You can also connect Integration Suite directly to Kafka if there's a need, yeah, using a Kafka adapter or something like that. Yeah? So the options are there and it depends, the best consulting answer. Summary, they solve different problems. Historically, they're coming from two different directions, yeah. We rather often use Kafka is going from the lockdown approach, whereas the advanced event mesh is coming from the network up approach, with a focus on transactional real-time events, yeah, versus Kafka often event sourcing, log collection, and often in the streaming context in regards in the direction of analytical. Yeah. Not only, I've seen Kafka also in different other spaces, but this is where they're coming from. They complement each other, and often it's not, let's say, neither or, yeah. But what we see, especially with the big companies out there, yeah, as they are fulfilling different problems, we see both in the integration architecture often. With that, some consulting insights, roadmap, and then we open for 5 or 10 minutes, 10 minutes not, but 5 minutes QA. I wanted to share this example project plan with you guys. I used it, I guess, a month or 2 months ago. I created with one of our customers, and it should just give you a glimpse what you should consider in your project. And also from the timeline, it's not too unrealistic. You see something like a half year now, yeah, you always can be faster, and yeah, you can also be slower for sure. But usually you have to consider different dimensions. And at SAP, you usually try to differentiate between technology perspective, kind of governance perspective, and different operational views, like the monitoring, support model, securities. Yeah? And just imagine new customer started on a green field with advanced event mesh, never seen advanced event mesh before. This is our timeline from now and for this year. In Q3, we just started Broker. Yeah? We have not used Terraform. We are currently building up Terraform. Yeah? We have enabled the underlying Datadog for monitoring, checked the alerting. We have configured the identity provider to establish single sign-on instead of using username and password. And we made some basic preparation of the backend. We started with RAP standard events, well knowing we're not sticking with RAP standard events. Yeah? And then the outlook from the technology perspective is straightforward. It's likely that we're enhancing and starting additional brokers, even one private broker in their own landscape. We are also going to use next year, now it's Q4, but realistic is next year, a Kafka bridge. And this customer is using also some micro integrations from Advanced Event Mesh, some insights in a bit. And then for next year, it's just rolling out new use cases, new subscriber, to make it, to have as many use cases on Advanced Event Mesh as possible. From the governance side, what we are doing is, first of all, this is what the customer I was talking about in the introduction. We doing, first of all, in enhancement of the integration pattern. So they are using right now A2A, B2B, B2G patterns. And for sure, when you introduce a technology, you have to define your patterns you would like to use, as well as maybe new design guidelines. To be honest, in Advanced Event Mesh, you're not doing too much design. You rather do configuration. Maybe the better wording would be configuration guidelines, but this is something you consider. Also, where your developer meets the events. So there's this event portal introduced by Alex. Also, we're bringing now all the events to the developer hub of SAP. So this might be this should be the central event platform as a catalog view for the Advanced Event Mesh. So the idea then for the end of this year is to bring the events into the developer hub. We're currently discussing how to transport certain configurations, and in the end also how for next year, then we can all have all events in the catalog. From the monitoring, we start simple, as you also should do. Check the embedded monitoring, the embedded data log, the embedded alerting, but be aware, and we check the roadmap in the bit, we're opening also up, we're improving from the Calm side. So Calm will introduce the health monitoring for Advanced Event Mesh still this year. There will be the exception monitor beginning of next year, if I'm not totally wrong. And you should think about your concepts if you would like to establish them for distributed tracing. Testing, I skip a little bit. Important that you consider testing, performance testing, etc. PP. Maybe more important is that you embed the Advanced Event Mesh in your daily routines. I'm pretty much sure you have something like ServiceNow, or you're using SAP technology for your support process. You need to be aware how the upgrade is going to happen compared to cloud integration, where we simply ship the updates in Advanced Event Mesh context. You have to be a little bit more active, so to say, and to establish your ongoing support. Then what I usually see is a race here. Who is responsible for the events, for the platform? Who is responsible for certain incidents? Usually we're defining races together with our customers. And last but not least, security. I've seen plenty of Excel sheets from our customers, you guys, for security assessment, where you usually ask what protocols are used, where's the hosting happening, what about the disaster recovery, how we can establish after discovery the storage of the data, etc. pp. So in order to operate later on in a good manner way, you might have to run as well as security assessment. And by the way, Terraform could also be helpful here. Because with Terraform, you can make a kind of state request. This is your installation right now. And why not checking on a weekly base, monthly base, or even daily base, if the setup, the configuration you have done is still the same one as you have expected. Good. How are we doing with the time? Yeah. Another getting started might be this link on top. Right now we have 2 or 3 colleagues here working SAP internally in an initiative, at SAP Advanced Event Mesh Ramp Up Initiative. And our idea, our intention is to spread the knowledge as we're doing it right now. And one other channel we are using is Zapblocks. We are writing down more or less all our knowledge in Zapblocks. And Alex has created one summary block, the block collection, where you can see all our blocks based on a certain topic. It's maybe the easiest starting point, I would say. From the overall roadmap, Asapio, I'm not allowed to call it Asapio anymore. The event add-on has been shipped. We are planning this year still, or this quarter still, to offer you something like a small migration tooling from the event mesh as part of Integration Suite to advanced event mesh, so that you can bring in, or that you easily can migrate the given queues, the given subscription from EMIS to advanced event mesh. Then I wanted to highlight that we would like to connect the advanced event mesh itself to the developer portal, so that you easily can consume the available events. Instead of maybe doing download and upload of the same, just bring them natively to each other. And then, the Calm health monitoring is coming. Same as a quarter later, the exception monitoring. And with Q1 and some insights now in the build, we make micro integrations general available. What does micro integration means, where we are right now? Maybe somebody's already in here. We started the beta with some of our selected customers to gather our knowledge how to operate these micro integrations, but also to allow you at least the chance to get the first touch point how micro integrations will work. And you can imagine micro integration in the cloud context is something predefined coding, something which has a certain logic, or which allows you to do certain transformation. And this micro integration can be attached to your advanced event mesh on a queue level, for example. Which micro integrations are currently available? You see something like Amazon, MQTT, Snowflake, and Salesforce. And you can just imagine like that. There is an event in a queue, and to this queue you have attached a micro integration, and then the micro integration is doing what it should be, based on the implementation. For Salesforce, the format will be a little bit adjusted to the Salesforce format, and then you can hand over the event to the Salesforce event landscape, more or less out of the box. And for sure, all the other micro integrations are also explained in here. I do not know all by heart, to be honest. Maybe I should edit a link here because they are already documented. And this we are going to ship in Q1 next year. So right now, beta is ongoing. Maybe you are part. Good, 5 minutes of QA. Start small, think about your use cases, we are here to help, ping us. But as usual, the first use case is usually the most expensive one for sure. If you only have a small use case and you think about a big broker, it's maybe a hard debate on your side in your enterprise. But start small, think big, start small. With that, let's open the chat or open the line, colleagues.